Ted and I were mission workers in Zambia for 4 years. Ted's my husband. We left because of family reasons. His father had died while we were there. His mother was diagnosed with cancer. But even more, our 28-year-old son didn't want to admit how much he missed us. But it filtered down through friends, and he doesn't want us in his backyard, but he sure likes being able to pick up the phone and talk to us. So for that, we felt we had to honor our families. We intended to stay longer, but when we shared with our African partners, they understand family obligations. We had a unique job in that we were called regional liaisons. And there's about 10 or 15 regional liaisons around the world who have a number of countries that they're responsible for. We lived in Zambia, but we were also working in Zimbabwe, Malawi, and Mozambique. Now, Zambia alone is the size of Texas, to give you an idea. Malawi is the size of Pennsylvania. So we would get in our Land Cruiser, and it took a day to reach most every place we had to go to. We were liaisons between PCUSA and the Presbyterian churches there. We worked with the church leaders, asking how we can strengthen their hand, how we can help them in what they're doing, not to take over. And that's really important. So sometimes we did workshops, we attended a lot of meetings, but we bit our tongues. You know, in the meetings there would be things that we thought, well, we could offer, but we knew if we said thus and so, they would do it. And it's not our church, it's their church. We also represented one of the covenanted mission funding organizations, meaning there are 3 mission funding agencies kind of attached to the Presbyterian Church. One is the Outreach Foundation that we worked with, and their commitment is to evangelism and growth of churches and orphans and vulnerable children. There's Medical Benevolence Foundation, which obviously helps support a lot of our doctors and our medical work. And then there's Frontier Fellowship, which is committed to unreached people. So you would see them funding things like in North Africa, where there are a lot of Muslims, for instance. The Outreach Foundation is the one that we worked with, and we helped oversee. We didn't supervise per se, but we worked with a number of the projects that they funded in those countries. For instance, in Zambia, there is an orphanage called Numumu. And it's a very exciting place because it was started by Zambians. And the difference between that orphanage and some others is Americans have gone in and felt that we need to address the orphan problem. Because of HIV/AIDS, many children have been orphaned. The ideal is that they stay in the village or they live with relatives. But the saturation point is getting high. For instance, our gardener had 5 children, and soon after the 5th child was born, was asked to take 2 of his late brother's daughters. So he suddenly had 7 children. And it just comes to a point that families can only absorb so many. So this orphanage was started. It's very basic. There's cold running water in the dormitories. But again, the difference between those and the American ones is it's run by Zambians, it's run like a Zambian village, and when the children age out, when they get old enough to leave, they'll be able to acclimate back into Zambian culture. Some of the American-run ones are like little American villages. And the real question is, and there's been studies, how do they get back into their own culture?